Welcome to His and Hers Perspectives.
Now, after watching that clip, I want to ask you, she asked him, do I have to sign the ticket? And he said, yes. And then she goes, no, I don't have to. Now, I want to ask you, does she have to sign the ticket? So, providing that you were to be in a situation like this, what would you advise a person to do in that particular situation? Of course, we would say, we know that she doesn't have to sign, no one have to sign anything, but what is the best way in dealing with it and why?
Right. Well, essentially, the best way to deal with it, especially for just everyday person, is to sign the ticket. You know what I mean? Like,
why they should do that? Sorry if I jumped ahead.
Right. You want to sign the ticket. That's the first thing you want to do, because the main thing is your freedom. You know what I mean? Like, that's really the main thing. You know, the proceedings, what comes after that, whether it is you have to pay a fine, whether it is you're going to have to be seen in court and whatnot, all of those things can be taken care of at a later date. But you want to make sure you sign the ticket. And there's also something else that's very key that you want to do when you sign the ticket, and that is a part of what we're going to jump into tonight.
Yeah. So, and the reason why I wanted to, we want to advise you to sign the ticket, not only just for your freedom, but also because most of the times when you try to deal with these laws or a customer service representative or whoever you're talking to on the phone, most of the time they do not know the laws that govern some of the things that you're saying to them. So her saying, no, I don't have to sign it, Officer Brooks probably don't know the reason why she don't have to sign it. So it will be pointless going back and forth with him. So It's like, let me sign it to get this out of the way.
And, and essentially what that pretty much represents is you remaining in honor. You want to remain in honor at all times. You don't want to create controversy. You don't want anything like that. Like, what do you really expect to achieve when going back and forth and creating arguments with a law enforcement officer? You don't necessarily want to do that. Like I said, if you approach them from an area of knowledge, from an area of education, I know my rights, I know this, I know that, then that's one thing. But whenever you start to try to belittle this person, and obviously they start to get frustrated, and then they use, the tools that are at their disposal to then try to take you down. Because for the most part, the law, a lot of times is on their side, in the sense of they have, an example of that is, anytime there's complaints that are being made against a police officer, that complaint is handed to internal affairs, which is literally a part of the police department. You get what I'm saying? So in a lot of senses, they are the judge, the jury, and the executioner. You know what I mean? So again, you want to remain in honor, but what we want to do is also give you, some more insight on what could have been done in that instant to provide remedy for herself. And for her to have been able to continue on with her night without having to worry about spending the night in a cold jail setting.
And as Jay mentioned, we're going to tell you what she could have done to remedy this particular situation. And I'm going to be reading from this particular book called The UCC Connection, How to Free Yourself from Legal Tyranny. And this is what the book looked like. Hopefully you can see it a little bit.
It can be found on Amazon. It's relatively inexpensive. Go on Amazon.
And there's a lot of other books that will suggest, and we suggest you get them too.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to read section 19 because Jay mentioned remedy, and we want you guys to understand what remedy is, okay? So it says remedy and recourse. Every system of civilized law must have two characteristics: remedy and recourse. Remedy is a way to get out from under the law, which is what we're going to speak about. And recourse is if you have been damaged under the law, you can recover your loss. So in regards to this, as Jay says, how this woman could have remedied the situation and how you could remedy the situation in future. So I'm just going to jump to section 21. And it says, whenever you sign any legal paper that deals with the Federal Reserve notes in any way, under your signature, write without prejudice or without prejudice UCC 1-308. This reserves your rights.
I want you to pause right now, stop whatever it is you're doing, and make sure to like the video. Everybody, hit that like button. It's free. It don't cost you nothing.
Yes.
It don't cost you nothing at all.
It don't cost you anything. And even subscribing, it don't cost you anything. And when you subscribe, you want to hit that notification button so that you get notified every single time we drop.
Right. So before we unpack that, I want to get and make something abundantly clear. The systems around the world, especially when it comes to laws, law enforcement, courts, judges, and things of that nature, they are all commercial. Mm-hmm. And when I say commercial, I mean they all have to do with money, with currency, finance. It is all about business. It is one entity trying to take money from another entity. The transfer of wealth is what is going on. You know what I mean? When you go into courts, the damages tend to be monetary. You know what I mean? When they send you to prison, you are actually exchanging your time for the benefit of the state that you're in. Because what are you doing when you're in prison? You are creating things. Most prisoners are either creating license plates and other things of that nature that they are able to then obviously turn a profit off of. So everything is commercial. Okay, so go ahead.
I was going to say, and if you wanted to come out of jail or prison, what did they ask for? Bail. Money again.
Okay.
That's all. Out. Like, money. It's all commerce. It's all business.
Everything. That's what it's all about. The name of the game is money. They're trying to take money. It's all about the dollar bills, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about it. Now,
and I was going to say, like it says here, it says whenever you sign any legal paper that deals with Federal Reserve notes in any way, so her signing this, she'll have to pay a fine. So that is how she's dealing with the Federal Reserve note. So it says in any way you're dealing with that, you should write without prejudice or without prejudice UCC 1-308.
Right. So, and another thing for anyone who is unfamiliar with the UCC, it is the Uniform Commercial Codes. Now, what the Uniform Commercial Codes are a series of codes that have been made uniform to fit throughout every state and oftentimes throughout most countries in the world. Basically, they've created codes that give general sets of laws, rules, and regulations that most municipalities have to agree with and adhere by. So these codes are basically the set of codes that you can go to understand general laws, regardless of where you are for the most part.
Yeah.
Right. So whenever you're signing that name, and in this instance for this woman, she should have simply signed her name and then read that part again. This is what she should have.
Then under her signature, she should have written without prejudice or without prejudice UCC 1-308 because this reserves her rights.
Right. So now by her reserving her rights, she's saying, I'm not necessarily guilty. I'm not admitting to doing anything. I'm not admitting to committing any sorts of crime. I did nothing, but what I'm going to do is sign this to be able to leave tonight, and I'm going to deal with everything else with my rights fully intact.
Yes, because Section 22 says, without prejudice, UCC 1-308, it says, when you use without prejudice or without prejudice UCC 1-308 in connection with your signature, you are saying, I reserve my right not to be compelled to perform under any contract or commercial agreement that I did not enter knowingly, voluntarily, and intentionally. I do not accept the liability of any compelled benefit or any unrevealed contract or commercial agreement. Because as you mentioned as well, babe, that everything is commercial. So when you're using it in conjunction with your signature and without prejudice, it's saying, I reserve my right not to be forced, compelled to perform under any contract or commercial agreement, because it's all business. So it's it says that I did not enter into knowingly, voluntarily, or intentionally, because she's doing this under duress, right?
Right.
No, she doesn't sign it.
That's literally what is happening in almost every situation where you present identification or to where you're signing anything. You are literally creating a contract. Now, whether that be you going to the post office, whether that be you going to an insurance company, whether that be you going anywhere to where you are asked to give identification and the signature, you are creating a contract. So it's no different whenever the police officer approaches you. He's trying to make you bound by contract. And that's a reason most of the time that, you are, or you find yourself in situations to where you can't necessarily get remedy, because it's either too little too late, or you don't even understand that you're bound by a specific contract, whether it was made clear to you or not. Now, again, there are remedies to it, but the first thing you have to do is understand these basic principles, and everything is commercial. Everything is commercial. So we need to make that abundantly clear that everything is commercial, and they are trying to force you into contracts.
And if you're dealing with the law or even just the bank or anything, you can write without prejudice or without recourse, or there's so many different things that you can actually write under your signature. And guys, trust me, this is why you should read your terms and conditions. You should read up on your consumer rights. You should read up on so many things, because these things are in place to help you. But because we see these long terms and conditions and these consumer rights legislation, we're like, oh my God, that's long. But when you read it, oh my God, I'm telling you, we do the things we're telling you.
They understand it because they know human nature. They know for the most part, people don't want to sit down and try to dissect all of that verbiage. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I get it. And they understand that as well. And another key thing that you said earlier was, another term was under duress. Yes. You can't be coerced to do anything. And if you're threatened, if a police officer threatens your freedom and say you must sign this or I'm going to do that, then obviously you're under duress. If you're threatened by certain ramifications, then you are under duress. So if you were to sign, then you're under duress, and that makes a world of difference in the law.
Yes, and he even said, I will be forced to do this. I'm going to forcefully do this. So you're even telling on yourself that you're going to do something on me forcefully that I am not accepting. If you're appreciating the content and would like to show your support, consider becoming a channel member or sending a super chat, super sticker, super thanks, or alternatively, sending a cash app to #his/hers perspectives.